The American Civil War, spanning from 1861 to 1865, was a monumental conflict that reshaped the United States. Fought between the northern states, the Union, consisting of 23 states, and the 11 southern states that seceded to form the Confederacy, this war involved a vast scope of military engagements across more than 20 states. Throughout the conflict, there were over 10,000 battles and skirmishes recorded, including 54 decisive and major battles that significantly influenced the course of the war. The brutal encounters of the Civil War led to the deaths of approximately 620,000 to 850,000 soldiers, with about 360,000 Union and 260,000 Confederate troops among the fallen. Additionally, countless others were wounded, marking it as one of the deadliest conflicts in American history. Women also played a crucial, though often overlooked, role during the war, serving as nurses, aides, and occasionally in combat. Their involvement was vital to the logistical support of the armies and in direct action, contributing significantly under extraordinarily challenging conditions. In 1861, as America teetered on the brink of civil war, states and territories were sharply divided by their stances on slavery and allegiance. Before April 15, southern states like South Carolina, Mississippi, Florida, Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, and Texas swiftly seceded, forming the core of the Confederacy in a defiant stand for slavery. Following the attack on Fort Sumter and President Lincoln's subsequent call for truce, Virginia, Arkansas, Tennessee, and North Carolina also joined the Confederacy, deepening the national divide. Meanwhile, the border states, Kentucky, Missouri, Maryland, and Delaware, remained in the Union despite permitting slavery. Notably, Kentucky and Missouri were battlegrounds of loyalty, each hosting competing Unionist and Confederate governments, reflecting the intense local divisions. To the north, states such as New York, Pennsylvania, and Ohio, where slavery was abolished, became strongholds of Union support, rallying resources and manpower to the cause. In the territories, the question of slavery was equally contentious. Kansas, for example, was a flashpoint of violence as pro- and anti-slavery forces clashed, presaging the border conflict that would engulf the nation. The American Civil War was precipitated by deep-seated divisions between the North and South, fueled by distinct economic paths and the contentious issue of slavery. The industrial North advocated for proactive tariffs and fostered a burgeoning abolitionist movement that challenged the morality and economics of slavery. In contrast, the agrarian South depended heavily on slavery for its cotton-dominated economy and resisted any threats to its continuation. Key political efforts aimed to maintain a delicate balance between free and slave states. The Missouri Compromise of 1820 allowed for the admission of Missouri as a slave state and Maine as a free state, establishing a line, the 3630 parallel, north of which slavery was prohibited in future territories. However, these measures only offered temporary relief. The Compromise of 1850 attempted to address issues arising from newly acquired territories following the Mexican-American War by allowing states to decide on slavery through popular sovereignty. This principle was extended by the Kansas-Nebraska Act of 1854, which overturned the Missouri Compromise by allowing residents of Kansas and Nebraska territories to determine the legality of slavery themselves. This act led to Bleeding Kansas, where violent clashes between pro-slavery and anti-slavery settlers underscored the profound failures of political compromises to address the moral and social issues surrounding slavery. The election of Abraham Lincoln in 1860, representing the anti-slavery Republican Party, was the final straw for the southern states, prompting secession and setting the stage for war. The year 1861 marked the explosive beginning of the American Civil War. As tensions over slavery and states' rights peaked, a group of southern states declared their secession from the Union. In February, they formed the Confederate States of America and established a provisional government led by President Jefferson Davis. The conflict ignited on April 12th when Confederate forces attacked Fort Sumter in South Carolina. After a 34-hour bombardment, the Union garrison surrendered, marking the first military engagement of the war. This attack unified the North and prompted President Abraham Lincoln to call for 75,000 volunteers, signaling the start of large-scale mobilization across the North and the remaining loyal Southern states. On April 15th, Virginia, Arkansas, Tennessee, and North Carolina joined the Confederate cause, significantly bolstering its military and strategic position. The Confederate capital was moved from Montgomery, Alabama, to Richmond, Virginia, on May 29th, making it a crucial target for Union attacks. The first major battle of the war, the First Battle of Bull Run, occurred near Manassas, Virginia on July 21st, ending in a Confederate victory and underscoring the war's potential length and intensity. Additionally, President Lincoln initiated the Anaconda Plan, a naval blockade designed to strangle the Southern economy by cutting off its trade routes, starting in April 1861. The war escalated dramatically in 1862. Early in the year, the Second Battle of Bull Run, also known as the Second Battle of Manassas, occurred on August 20 through 30, reinforcing the harsh reality of a prolonged conflict. This battle marked another Confederate victory on the same grounds where the first major battle had occurred, indicating that the Confederacy was initially gaining the upper hand. The Battle of Shiloh, fought on April 6 through 7 in the Western Theater, further illustrated this trend with some of the fiercest fighting to date, significantly influencing the control of the Mississippi River and underscoring the Confederates' strong defensive strategies and effective leadership. On September 17, the Battle of Antietam in Maryland unfolded as the bloodiest single day in American military history. Though neither side secured a decisive victory, it halted the Confederate advance into the North and provided President Lincoln the opportunity to issue the preliminary Emancipation Proclamation. Meanwhile, the Peninsular Campaign, spearheaded by Union General George B. McClellan, aimed to capture Richmond by advancing up the Virginia Peninsula, a maneuver that ultimately faltered in the face of General Robert E. Lee's aggressive defense. This series of events showcased the initial Confederate advantages, but also highlighted the turning points where the Union began to capitalize on its superior resources and strategic positioning. 1863 marked a year of crucial turning points in the American Civil War. On January 1st, President Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation, transforming the war's morale and strategic objectives by declaring the freedom of slaves in Confederate-held territory. This move undermined the Southern war effort and discouraged European unions from supporting the Confederacy. Amid these strategic shifts, on June 20th, West Virginia formally seceded from Virginia and was admitted to the Union as the 35th state. This significant event underscored the deep divisions within the Confederate States themselves and provided the Union with additional resources and strategic advantage. July brought the Battle of Gettysburg, a significant Union victory from July 1 through 3, which proved to be a critical turning point in the war. The defeat halted General Lee's invasion of the North, shifting the momentum to the Union forces. Almost simultaneously, the siege of Vicksburg concluded on July 4th, with Union forces capturing Vicksburg, Mississippi, thereby gaining control of the Mississippi River and effectively splitting the Confederacy in two. In the West, the Tullahoma and Chattanooga campaigns, led by Union General William S. Rosecrans, secured important strategic victories, further degrading Confederate capabilities and bolstering Union control of Tennessee. In 1864, the Union's strategy shifted towards total war, intensifying military actions. General Ulysses S. Grant's Overland Campaign featured a relentless series of battles across Virginia, including significant confrontations at the Wilderness, Spotsylvania, and Cold Harbor, leading to the prolonged siege of Petersburg. These engagements were marked by heavy casualties and a persistent strategy to wear down Confederate forces. Concurrently, General William Tecumseh Sherman advanced his Atlanta campaign, securing the city in September, a critical Confederate resource center. He then launched his March to the Sea, devastating Georgia's infrastructure and economy with his scorched earth tactics, profoundly impacting Confederate morale. Additionally, the Union tightened naval blockades, severely restricting Confederate trade and supply lines, further crippling their economy. The year also reaffirmed Union resolve with President Abraham Lincoln's re-election, endorsing his policies of abolition and unyielding warfare. This victory underscored Northern commitment to defeating the Confederacy, shaping the war's final stages. In 1865, the Civil War reached its climactic conclusion. Early in the year, the Carolina Campaign saw Union forces under General William T. Sherman march through the Carolinas. This campaign culminated in significant battles, including Bentonville, further pressuring Confederate forces. Subsequently, the siege and fall of Petersburg and Richmond in early April marked the disintegration of Confederate defenses, leading directly to the evacuation of the Confederate capital. This allowed Union forces under General Ulysses S. Grant to capture Richmond, effectively collapsing the Confederate war effort. Days later, on April 9th, General Robert E. Lee surrendered to Grant at Appomattox Courthouse, signaling the effective end of the war. This momentous event began the process of national reconciliation. Shortly thereafter, on May 10th, Confederate President Jefferson Davis was captured in Georgia, eliminating any remaining hopes for Confederate resurgence. Tragically, the mood of victory was marred by the assassination of President Abraham Lincoln on April 14th, profoundly impacting Reconstruction and post-war policies, steering the nation towards a tumultuous recovery period. As the Civil War drew to a close in 1865, it left an indelible mark on American history, reshaping the nation and setting the course for future reforms. Please like, subscribe, and click the notification bell to stay updated with our latest content.